So we're going to probably talk for about 20 minutes because there's two of us, but then open it up for Q&A so you can kind of have a chit chat about what we talk about and see if there's any questions. But the co-working space is really great, so if you guys want to check it out after the talk and see what they've got going on, it's a cool space. So, all right, you guys ready to talk about all the fun things? We'll make it more fun than it seems, I promise. So yeah, we're just going to go through like a little bit about us, why we're talking on this subject, dive into like the BS of hustle and like the Instagram flattery of working 24/7 and how we need to stop doing that. Talk about flow state and then tips on how to like break out of this culture of like hard work, like, yeah. Cool, I'm Taryn. I'm the founder of an online platform called The Remote Yogi, which really specializes in using the platform of yoga to help bring like mindfulness and help people work through stress and anxiety and things like that. So speaking about hard work today is like a soft place in my heart. I kind of grew up with this like blue collar background. So if you guys are from Western culture, it's that attitude of like, you have to put in the hard work to prove yourself to the world. So I kind of grew up with this belief that the harder I worked, the more I proved my worthiness. And so I ended up getting really caught up into like perfectionism. So like through college, I was working 2 jobs and trying to get through college, and at some point was just like sleeping maybe 4 hours a night and just felt like I had to show up and had to perform and had to be like the best person. And then later when I got into the corporate world, it like just got even bigger, where I was like working harder than I should have been. I was letting people take advantage of me because I just felt like I could prove my worth by working harder, but really like it wasn't doing anything for me. So I reached this point of burnout where I was like having panic attacks every day, and like anxiety was like a really big part of my life, until I found the things like yoga and meditation and started to understand that like hard work doesn't equal like success, and hard work doesn't mean that like you're a good person. Like has, you know, nothing to do with that. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about like how to break that pattern down. Hi, is she the cutest? I'm going to pull you over a little bit. There you go. Yeah. I know, we got to get you on camera.
So I'm Lara. I'm a yoga teacher now. I'm a content writer. But I haven't always been. I used to be a marketing manager, country marketing manager, and was very proud of that title. I grew up quite poor, single parent household, and I just was so eager to do better. To build like my own future, to have that financial stability. And that kind of worked until I got to that place I wanted to be. Like I got the title, I got the income, I got the job, and I was working crazy hours. I was so stressed out. I was getting migraines, stress-induced migraine attacks. I was getting sleep paralysis attacks almost every single night. So I was just exhausted. My doctor held me home like 2 times, just like, stop it, you're going to a burnout, it's enough. But yeah, I kept going, and I kept going because like I had to work hard. Like I had, like, especially now that I got here, I had to prove that I was worth this job. Until finally something snapped, and I was just like, no, I can't. I had that feeling like, is this it? Is this what I've been working for so hard? Because I still feel so empty and not satisfied. I reached every goal, but I'm left, like I have that short, yay, I made it, I did it. And then you set that next goal. So you never are really like happy, or never really satisfied from the core. So yeah, I ended up quitting my job, selling my stuff, and becoming a yoga teacher. And also a business owner.
Which was easy, right? No stress.
No stress at all, because it's so easy. It's a piece of cake. No, but it's funny because I kind of exchanged my crazy, stressful corporate life for the crazy entrepreneurial life. Because everybody's working 7 days a week, morning till night. We're doing like 100-hour work weeks. And then by now I'm a yoga teacher, and I like know know about self-care and like how to take care of myself, but I'm still going along with it and noticing like this is not what I did it for. This is not why I quit my job. And I noticed, and that's why I'm also so passionate about this subject, that in the entrepreneurial community, it is really that hustle as a badge of honor. And I feel very strongly about not getting too caught up with that. And that's why I really like to share what I've learned about the flow and the balance, as we'll be talking about.
Yeah, and I don't know like what kind of workspaces you guys are in, entrepreneurial or like a normal job, but I think all these lessons are effective regardless. Like, of course, it's going to be amplified in the entrepreneurial space because you're wearing so many hats. But like in any job, you can let yourself like really get caught up in like having to work hard and perform and show your boss that you're capable and all the things. So I'm going to kind of break that down. I love this quote. It's first we make our habits, then our habits make us. So one of the things we really want to hone in on is this idea of like daily practice, coming back to this daily, because oftentimes, especially in Western culture, we have this idea that if we take our 2-week vacation once a year, that like it'll coast out through the rest of the year and we'll be fine. That's not effective. That doesn't really work. And so unless you're making a daily practice of like taking care of the self, whether through physical work, mental work, you'll get burnout eventually. You'll eventually just feel too exhausted.
And also very important to mention here is that you don't have to take an hour or 2 hours a day. It's just like small, even 10 minutes or 5 minutes a day can be enough. Like it's not that big of an effort to do. It doesn't need to be like, oh no,
giant vacation to Hawaii. Cool. Let's talk about the hustle. Has anyone like heard the term hustle before? Like it's pretty common, right? Okay. So hustle can be really good at the right time and place. Like hustle can be like, you know, gonna get you through those hard working hours. Like there's always gonna be times when you're doing work that you don't wanna do and you've gotta like push through. It's like hustle's gonna happen. We wanna like de-glorify hustle and the fact that like hustle till you die kind of like attitude, like that's just not helpful to anyone. So I know that Laura is passionate about this one.
Yeah, like, I don't know about you, but when I look at my Instagram account, I used to follow a lot of entrepreneurial accounts, and they're all about working hard, working till you drop, working all day, all night, and like that's how you build a business, because it's hard work. And okay, it's hard work, it's not easy, but it's all about the balance. It's not a healthy thing to promote people to go and work 24/7. It's not what we're made for. So I find it a real dangerous thing, although I'm all about we have to work, we have to get things done, but we can't glorify it as the way we should be living our lives, working either employed or in your own company. So yeah, that can kind of piss me off a bit.
But it's like a badge of honor. It's like, yeah, I work so hard, or like, you know, when your friends ask how you're doing, or you ask your friends how they're doing, how often do people say, I've been really busy? Like that has nothing to do with how you're actually doing, you know? It's just like one of those things that people say because it's become like the norm. It's like socially acceptable to like tell everyone how exhausted you are by all the work that you're doing. It's become like a standard that you have to live up to every day. And so we're trying to get rid of that, because what happens is when we have this badge of honor, we're proving our worth through how hard we can work, is it's going to become an addiction. So this is what happened with me, where I was like working, you know, 15 hours a day. I just wasn't sleeping. It was just work, work, work. And it becomes a thing where you have to. It's like if I'm not producing, I'm not worth anything, and so I have to show up. The other side of this is if it's not an addiction, it might become like just lethargy, right? Like it's like, this is so overwhelming, I can't keep up, so I'm just not going to do anything. Because if my work isn't hard work and I'm too exhausted by the hard work, I'm just not going to try at all. And so you get those two balances due to the guilt and shame of it. If you want to talk about that guilt.
Yeah, I'm really, really good at guilt tripping myself. I've been getting better, but I noticed when I was actively trying to do less, when I wasn't being productive, I felt like I was wasting time. I felt lazy. And it's really interesting because it relates back to the sense of like your self-worth. If I'm not doing anything, I'm not worth anything. While it's the other way around, like even when you're not doing anything at all, like you can spend your entire day just watching Netflix, you are still worth it. And you don't have to feel guilty about not doing anything. I would not recommend to do it for longer periods of time, like a year or something. But it is okay, and we need to like get back into that knowing it is okay to have those periods of lower or non-productivity without the guilt, without the shame. And I notice now, because I'm actively doing less, when I meet a friend and they'll be like, so what are your plans for this week, or what have you been up to? And I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, I read a book, I got a massage, I chilled, and also I did a little bit of work. But I feel I have to say, like, I worked, you know, I was working on something, and that's the way I noticed for myself that I'm still like somewhere that feeling of, the shame, the guilt is still in there. So it's something that we really need to work on continuously, and it's not something that we can like make disappear. But it is important. It is super important for our own self-worth. So,
yeah, and of course, the more we're able to relax, the more we get into what's called flow state, which is where we want to be when we're working. This is some fancy Wikipedia explanation of flow state, which you can read if you'd like, but I really like Laura's definition because she just feels the flow and she, like, you can feel it oozing out of her, so like explain flow to us.
For me, flow is when you're doing something and time just disappears. You're just doing it for fun, like enjoyment, the heck of doing it. There's no need to get it done. There's not that desire to scratch it off the list. It's just like you enjoy what you're doing, and what you're doing is working, but it's pleasurable, it's fun. And what makes it interesting, if you do it for the heck of it, just for the work you're doing, you won't have that, what I used to have, like I put something on my list, I scratch it off, and you know that, yes, I did it, and now I need that next thing to do. Because your satisfaction just drops, like it doesn't bring continuous pleasure. While when you're in the flow state, when you're done, it's just like, it's done, it's good, and you don't need that next goal to get that next like hit almost of that yes feeling, you know? So yeah, I'm all for working and building our businesses or working as an employee, but I prefer doing it in a flow style as much as I can.
Yeah. And like the only way to get into a flow state is by like stopping the hustle long enough to like let yourself pause and reflect. Because if you're just doing the task, like getting things done, like you don't pause long enough to allow yourself to drop into like creative ideas, to like just drop into just what comes out of you naturally. Like we all have so many gifts and talents, and whether you're working for an employee or you're got your own business, you're there for a reason, and it's part of your personality. That's why you're there. And what happened with me when I get really caught into the doing, I like am, you know, getting all the tasks done, I'm getting the emails set, I'm getting like the blog posts up, but when it becomes like a task instead of like I'm giving my soul into this, I'm like letting myself share my passion through my work, there's a different tone, and it doesn't hit the same way it would if I like slowed down long enough for me to like maybe do less, but have it be better quality. You know, and that makes such a big difference. So, to get a flow state, you really have to like take care of yourself. Like if you're just, again, working all the time, you'll never get here because your brain can't naturally drop into that unless it's relaxed, unless it's had like everything it needs to get this kind of stimulation to drop into creativity. Talk a little about self-care.
Let's talk about self-care.
Well, yeah, just like understanding that like self-care is not like a luxury thing that we think about. Like we think about self-care like bubble baths and like champagne toast. I don't know. It's like nothing to do with like the glorified spa days that are on, you know, online. It's more about like daily habits where you're taking care of your mental health, you're taking care of your emotional health. And your physical health. So oftentimes if we put our business and our work ahead, we might be growing every day mentally, because we're learning new things and we're like watching the podcast and we're doing things, But if we're not like engaging with our body like physically, then if you get to the point where your body is not able to work for you, if it's like getting sick, if it's, you know, if you're not taking care of it, what good's the rest gonna do? So it's really about making sure every day you're checking in with like your emotional health, mental health, and physical health. And then we'll talk a little bit about the ways we can do that, the ways we find balance. So breathing.
Very important.
It gets so simple, like to tell people like just breathe. That's like the slogan, right? But really, what happens when we drop into our breath is we're engaging what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. So when we're anxious, when we're stressed, we're into what's called the sympathetic nervous system, which causes the heart rate to increase a little bit. You know, it causes like that tension where everything tightens. You know, like when you're stressed and the shoulders are up by your ears and everything's kind of like awkward. It's because that nervous system's engaged and like telling the body like, it's fear mode, like let's run from the lion or whatever it is. Just by breathing and really focusing on the breath, we can actually drop into the parasympathetic. You guys want to do an activity?
Sure.
It's easy.
Okay.
Just put your hands on your belly. So easy. And let's just start breathing in for 3 counts. Big breath in, slowly, 3 counts. And then try to breathe out for 4 counts. Slow.
So when you breathe, do you use your lungs or do you put it into the stomach?
Trying to bring it down into the stomach.
Okay.
So as you start to keep deepening, so maybe start to make the counts longer and longer. See if you can pull that breath down into the belly. So as you breathe in, the belly inflates like a big balloon, really pressing out like this, like a little pregnant. And then as you breathe out, you pull that belly button into the spine. And as we're doing this breath work, we're trying to make the exhalations just slightly longer than the inhalations. That's what's going to help to really drop into that resting state. Feel a little bit calmer. It's like everyone was in a rush to get here. We were like all running behind, and now it's just like, okay. So just something as simple as that. So when we find ourselves like stressed out at work, or like having this moment where we feel like the work's never gonna end and things are kind of stressful, simply like stopping for, how long did that take? 30 seconds? So drop in, check in with the breath.
And what do you do with
Super
the
easy.
hands?
Just because you can become aware.
Okay.
You don't need the hands. It's just until you understand how to move the belly.
Okay.
We always have that short breath that's up in the chest, and that doesn't really like engage the nervous system in the same way as like diaphragm breaths. Really dropping in. Yeah. Dropping in the body. I mean, we're yoga teachers, so we're gonna tell you to get into your body. But there's like different benefits to it, right?
Yeah, and like it doesn't have to be complicated. Again, like you don't have to do yoga, although there's a lot of benefits of yoga that
You breathe with yoga, so like double benefit.
But you can also just like go for a walk, or like we were talking about it earlier, because I said like just do some exercise, but it's not even exercise. It's just literally moving. So you don't have to go to the gym. You can just like.
Although again, we encourage that. Like, you know, we encourage all the things. But even if you like just turn on your favorite song and dance for a minute, you're getting into your body and it's gonna get you out of your head. Because often we're in this state of overthinking, right? Like we've got so much to do, all these different tasks. We get a lot of anxiety and stress, and so that's all in the brain. It's just thoughts. As soon as we can drop into the body, the thoughts are gonna start to calm down a little bit because we're focused more on like what's happening physically, and that's why we suggest to get into the body.
Yeah, and also what happens, because a lot of time we're thinking like, I don't have time for all these kinds of things. Like I need to work, I need to be productive, like there it is again, productive. But it's interesting, as we're doing stuff like this, for example, the dancing or just the movement, it's weird how when you're just not thinking about work and just doing something completely different, a lot of the time just something pops or drops and you have that, maybe I can do that. Because when we're always in that stress phase and we're working hard, we don't have that room for creativity. And creativity doesn't have to be painting or like, I don't know what. Like when we're working, finding solutions, making plans, that's also a form of creativity that we need on our day-to-day job. So it's interesting that when we're not working and we're taking that time, and even if it's just like 2 minutes, like one song and just dance it out, that it can actually help you work better also. Yeah,
and that leads us to breaks, which again, we talk about like scheduling time off. But you're a big fan of the Pomodoro method.
Yeah, do you guys know the Pomodoro method? It's amazing. Like, I love it, and it's well researched, so it's real. It's not just me, like a crazy yoga teacher, coming like to preach it. I really love it, and it's basically that you work for a certain amount of time. It's at 20 to 50 minutes. I always do 50 because 20 is a bit short, and then you take a break of 10 or 15 minutes. So what I do, work for 50 minutes, 10-minute break, and then again, because our brain is not able to keep its focus continuously for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Like, we're just physically not able to do that. The quality of our work will start to drop. So it's super important that we take time like early enough, not after we get to that point of exhaustion. So we take the time to take a quick break, close our laptop, put away our phone, because a break is not being on social media and being like scrolling and I don't know what. Just taking a break, talking to somebody else, grabbing a cup of coffee, play that song, do a little dance off, and then start again for the next 50 minutes.
Yeah, and actually we met because Lara was hosting these events in Bali where we came together as a group to do Pomodoro, because I don't know about you, I do this by myself and I see the timer go off for a break and I'm like, hey, no one's here to hold me accountable, so I'm gonna keep doing my work. So like when we do it as a group, we can, or even just like with a friend, just like let's commit to working in these Pomodoro methods, or coworker. You can say, okay, I'm gonna hold you accountable, you hold me accountable, so we take the breaks and we can come back together more effective. And sometimes the breaks are helpful because I might be stuck on something, and if I get a chat with a friend, like they might give me a great solution instead of just sitting there and being like frustrated at my computer.
Yeah, I had the same thing happening to me. Sponsor class.
And how do you do it if you're working alone?
Working alone. Yeah, it's more challenging. You just have to be more committed to it. And so it's just like one of those muscles that you have to like keep working. Yeah.
And for me, it doesn't work too much because sometimes you are in this flow state and you need to interrupt and then to get back. So I don't know, I work right in this level.
Yeah, and you know, the flow state's a little bit different. And we're gonna talk about that in just a second, actually, with like the time off and having like routine. When you're in a flow state, yeah, like don't stop writing if you're like in the middle of something and you're like going. It's like the daily tasks where you're like, I'm doing like job stuff that I don't like and I'm just like stuck. But the more you're just stuck doing the things that you don't like you need to take those breaks. But if you're in like this like time doesn't exist, everything's moving, like stay there. You know, like you're good. You're good.
Yeah, I mean, like if time doesn't exist, then the 50 minutes doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So you can just ignore it when you're in flow state, right?
Yeah, it's like a totally different space. Because we talk about like taking time off. Like Laura's right now really taking time off.
Yeah, but before I get to taking time off, I wanted to talk about the traveling and how do you do it. Because I actually was introduced to the Pomodoro technique here in Chiang Mai, and then I went to Chengdu and I got there and was like, is something like this happening? No. Well, okay, then I'll organize it. I've never done it before, but I was just like, I need this for my own productivity and my own mental health. So I just organized it for a month.
Very cool.
It's a good way to meet people too. Like post it in like a Facebook group, be like, anyone want to co-work with me? Like to hold me accountable to take breaks? Like it'll be fun. We can make it a fun thing. Like, you know.
Like, yeah, we met each other there, and like it also led to like very interesting business contacts because most people are entrepreneurs. So it can turn into win-win kind of situations.
And then, you know, scheduling time off.
Yeah, so I'm really good at that one. Like I've been, as you can see, I've been working on this stuff a lot. And for me personally, it also depends on what type of person you are and how you like to work. I like to work almost every day, but less hours a day. Instead of working Monday to Friday, I'm working tons of hours. So I don't mind working a little every day. But for example, in the weekends, I only do my own work. Like I don't do any client work. And my evenings are free. Like I won't work in the evenings unless, again, I'm in a flow state. Or there is like a real emergency, like an exception, you know? Because even though like I'm preaching this, I feel like I'm literally preaching this.
Preaching to the choir though.
Yeah. I also feel like you need to be flexible. Like, and once you start setting really like strict rules for yourself, like I only work from this hour to this hour, doing Pomodoro technique every hour, and I don't work in the weekends, and then you don't leave that room for flexibility, then you're just like,
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I was telling you. So like I had at one point committed to like no work past 8 o'clock and then no work on Sundays, like period, end of story. Because I had this workaholism that I had to like get past. But there would be times, like you said, where I'm in the flow state and I'm like, oh, it's 8 o'clock, okay, fine. I walk away from it, I come back the next day and I'm like, I can't get back into it, like crap. And so I had to be more flexible. It was like, if I'm in the flow state and I'm like in the zone, great. If I'm just like stuck doing work I don't like, then I'm gonna apply these rules. Or if it's Sunday and I like have this blog post idea and I'm so excited about it and I can't wait to write, I'm gonna drop in and do it then. But I'm not doing like, I'm setting rules for like time off from doing the tasks that don't matter.
yeah.
And then, yeah, break down the mindset. We talked about this earlier. It's really about understanding the worthiness and the shame behind like not working enough, like all these things. And we're not going to be able to break this down for you in the next 5 minutes. So this is something that you might dig into deeper, or working with a coach, or like journaling. If this is something that you really struggle with, where you really feel like your worth is attached to your hard work, that's something that like you might want to
Have a closer look at.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up with challenges for you guys. We both have a challenge for you guys to try. Yay!
And my challenge is make a happy list. And it's quite simple. You just write down everything that makes you happy, everything that brings you joy. And it can be like, if you're a writer, writing about certain topics, like also be specific. Like I like to write about, I don't know what. For me, example, on my list, I like to do yoga. But there's certain types of yoga I like, and there's certain types I don't like. I like doing it in group, I don't really like doing it by myself. So be very specific, but it can also be like having a cup of tea. Like it doesn't need to be complicated. Feel the sun on my skin. That makes me happy, like we were in Chiang Mai. And then try to add in those things that make you happy mindfully, schedule them into your week, like schedule them into your break moments or your off time. Mindfully, and really try to make an effort of that, because a lot of times the first thing we stop doing, or like, well, I don't have time. Well, make time and try to commit to it.
Yeah, that's a great form of self-care. And then also, I'm having you make a list too. We didn't plan this, by the way. But I'm all about priorities. So oftentimes when I work with people who feel like they don't have enough time, there's like too much to do, it's often because they haven't really prioritized anything. So sitting down and coming up with your 7 to 10 biggest priorities, and these are usually categories like family, relationship, work, self-care, which should be number 1, right? That's like taking care of your mental, physical, emotional health. That should be number 1. But writing these things down and then ranking them and being brutally honest with yourself, because there's times in your life where these are going to change. These aren't set in place. But there are times when my business is going to come before my relationship. There are times when, like right now, I'm not married, my parents are fine, they don't need taken care of, I don't have kids. Family's lower on my list, whereas there might be a time in my life where family is pretty high on the list, and just knowing it changes. But once you have that priority list made, you can be more self-aware. Like if I know that right now my business is more important than like friendships, because sometimes it is. If a friend asks me to dinner, and this is the 3rd dinner this week, and I have so much work to do, I can look at my priority list and be like, work's more important right now. I can walk away from this instead of feeling like there's so much to do, I have to do it all. Like you don't have to do it all, you just have to make really hard choices, and that helps you do it. But also like this is a really quick one. Another list is going through all your shoulds. We talked earlier about like feeling like you have to do it all the time, and a lot of that is comparison. Like everyone's telling you, you should be, like for business, I'm just gonna use entrepreneurship as an example. You should be running Instagram and doing Facebook ads and doing an email list and doing courses and doing a mentorship. Like it's just too much. So when you can write down like, I should blank, and just keep writing them down until you run out of ideas, and then go back through that list and be like, okay, what if this actually feels good to me? If it doesn't, cross it out. Like we don't have time to do everything, and we've got to like see what actually works for us.
Yeah, and also I noticed when you do that, there's more room for what you actually want to do.
Yeah, like, oh cool, now I have time to do the things on my happy list.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome, so that kind of wraps us up. If anyone has any questions or just want to like chat.
Very cool. Thanks.
Thanks.
It is.